Hey guys, Wallace here with a breakdown of Romeo and Juliet Act 2. Let's get going. So Act 2 is all about the setup and what's going to lead to the conflict. Of course, we know that Romeo and Juliet get married, and this is where we start seeing that take place. But in the beginning, Romeo is hiding in Capulet's orchard. Benvolio and Mercutio are looking for him, and they can't find him, and they're kind of teasing him here, and they're like, all right, buddy, like, they're just kind of making fun of him for being such a lovesick fool, and then they leave. And then Romeo sees Juliet uh, on her balcony, and then he compares Juliet to a lot of the various heavenly bodies. Now, throughout this play, there's all these references to stars and the sun and the moon and all this kind of stuff. And here we see that, well, just like in the previous act, Juliet was like, don't swear by the moon because the moon's not constant. So they're constantly comparing each other to heavenly bodies. Here, Romeo compares her to the sun, but soft. What light through yonder window breaks, it is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief, that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Later on, Romeo compares Juliet's eyes, to the stars, two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. So he's comparing her basically to stars and light. Anything that shows light upon the earth, day or night, that is what Juliet is to him. All right. Now, Juliet continues a scene where she starts like kind of contemplating, like, why do I have to love Romeo? And she declares her love for him in your own words. I'm reading the question here, I guess. So here's what she's saying. "'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, thou not a Montague." What's Montague? It is nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other word would smell as sweet. So she's saying that we are not, that Romeo is not defined by his name. The characteristics that make Romeo who he is have nothing to do with the fact that he's a Montague. So when if you looked at a rose and you had no idea what to call it, it wouldn't matter what you called it. It would still have those same characteristics. So she's saying that we are not defined by what we're called. We're defined by our characteristics or what's inside. All right, now, Juliet tells Romeo not to swear by the moon because the moon changes and is not constant. I referenced this earlier. Why does Juliet say she has no joy in their expressions of love? And this is down here. She says, well, do not swear, although I joy in thee. I have no joy in this contract tonight. She's saying, like, this meeting tonight, it is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning which doth cease to be ere one can say it lightens. So she's saying this is all happening a little bit too fast. Let's slow down a little bit, which is kind of ironic because we all know that this story takes place in the matter of a few days. We know that this story has a reputation for being a story about two foolish teenagers who don't know what they're doing and they get lovesick and all that kind of stuff. But here we see that Juliet's like, no, like let's back off. Let's make sure this lasts. Let's make sure we're not just like, falling in love for a day and then moving on. Okay. Now, the friar, Romeo goes to the friar with all this, and the friar at first has a pretty negative reaction. And so in these lines up here at the top, you see like this, Holy Saint Francis, what a change is here. Is Rosaline, that thou didst love so dear, so soon forsaken? Young men's love then lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. He's saying that basically Romeo's love for Rosaline didn't make it past his eyeballs. It hadn't actually sunk into his heart yet, because he's clearly already moved on. Jesu Maria, what a deal of brine hath washed thy sallow cheeks for Rosaline. He's basically saying, you shed a lot of tears for this Rosaline girl. How much salt water thrown away in waste to season love, that of it doth not taste. So, they're referencing the fact that like you would use salt and brine to season food. And he's saying you just spent all this time crying over this girl and you didn't even get to, nothing came of it. There was nothing there. So he's basically, he's just saying like, in this line down here, thou and these woes were all for Rosaline, and art thou changed? Pronounce this sentence then: women may fall when there's no strength in men. He's saying, who can blame women for being unfaithful to their men when their men aren't faithful to them? Like, we're just all running around going, ooh, I love you, and then, ooh, I love you. No, now I love you. So Friar doesn't think this is serious. The Friar Lawrence doesn't think this is for reals. But the friar agrees to marry Romeo and Juliet for a specific purpose. Down here he says, for this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love. So again, this kind of gets back to this idea that something's opposite is contained in the thing itself. He's going to use this relationship between Romeo and Juliet to heal the relationship between the Capulets and Montagues. He hopes that this might join the families. All right, scene 4 opens with a conversation between Volo and Mercutio. The bad news is that Tybalt wants to duel with Romeo. And let's go talk about this just for a second here. All this stuff we already talked about. Where are we here? Here we go. Okay, a challenge on my life. Romeo will answer it. Any man that can write may answer a letter. Nay, he will answer the letter's master, how he dares being dared. Alas, poor Romeo, he is already dead. Stab of the white wench's black eye, run through the ear with a love song. The very pen of his heart cleft with the blind bowboy's butt shaft. And he is a man to encounter Tybalt. So basically, Mercutio's like, Romeo can't stand a chance against this dude. The dude's lovesick. He's already been defeated by love. So, Tybalt has challenged Romeo to a duel. Mercutio doesn't have confidence that Romeo will be able to defeat him because Mercutio he goes through here talking about how Tybalt is more than just the Prince of Cats. He is the courageous captain of compliments. Basically, Tybalt is a very, very, very good fighter. All right. So what message does Romeo tell the nurse later in scene 4? He says to the nurse, like, hey, tell Juliet to come to Friar Lawrence's cell for confession, and there we will be married. And then according to line 74 on 676, the nurse's motivation for helping is so that Juliet can be happy. So both the friar and the nurse want people to be happy and get along, and that's why they agree to go along with this. But we get some pretty some foreshadowing here at the end. Paraphrase Romeo's words in lines 3 through 8 on 676. How do these lines provide foreshadowing? Basically, Romeo is saying, even if I just get one short minute with Juliet, if I can call her mine, not even death can defeat me. I'm not even afraid of death. Love devouring death can do what he dare. It is enough. I may but call her mine. So this idea that even, as long as I get to marry Juliet for even a minute or just for a little bit, I don't even fear death. And of course, we know that's inevitably what's going to happen. In your own words, tell what warning Friar Lawrence gives Romeo. Basically saying here, like, don't go too fast. These violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die like fire and powder, which as they kiss consume. So basically, the idea that once you set a spark to gunpowder, it's over before you know it in a violent explosion, and then you're left with nothing but death and destruction. And then with the sweetest honey is loathsome in his own deliciousness, and in the taste confounds the appetite. So even if you get too much of a good thing, it turns bad. And so he's telling Romeo, like, chill, dude. We don't want this to blow up in our faces. You need to calm down. Which again, doesn't bode well because we see how Romeo is and just how fast everything is progressing. All right, so there's Act 2. We'll get into Act 3 later. Hope you guys are having a good one. Talk to you again soon.